Hello, everybody. Welcome to bonus content from Cerebral Conversations. This is per request of a fan. We are going to be reviewing the cult classic 2001 film Storytelling. I am one of your hosts, CJ Campbell,
And I'm the other host, Ryan Jackson.
the best damn host in the world.
That's right.
So we were specifically asked to review a Todd Solange film called Storytelling, which was released in 2001. Which it's a really interesting film. It serves as a backdrop of both fiction and nonfiction. Um, Fiction stories being centered around a creative writing class at a college university, and then the nonfiction story of a typical uh, upper class Jewish,
family.
yeah, Jewish American family, um, and they're part of a documentary series, and it was a really interesting film. What was really interesting about it is that the first half of the story of fiction centered around the creative writing experience. One of the main characters, Marcus, which was played by Mark Webber, um, has cerebral palsy. Um, how do you feel like they portrayed cerebral palsy in the movie?
I was kind of surprised at how accurate this portrayal was. I feel like they did a pretty good job at portraying some of the emotions that a person with cerebral palsy might have when it comes to romance and having a relationship with an able bodied person.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've ever watched a movie where a person with disability actually like had a legitimate sex scene in it.
Yes.
Where it wasn't like a comical thing.
Yes. I was pleasantly surprised at how well that was done, and it wasn't patronizing, or it didn't come off as a pity party. It was a legitimate, intimate moment between two people, which I really enjoyed because that is a lot of what we struggle with as disabled people, because we often get this romanticized idea of how things should be, but then in the media it's often done as a comical gesture for able bodied persons.
Yeah, I think one of the things I really appreciated is that the character wasn't a hero. In fact, he was kind of a d bag.
Yeah, he was really a jerk. He used some sexist language towards his girlfriend because he felt like she had lost interest in him, and she pitied him after they had intercourse. So he really did not come off as like the sympathetic figure that we often see in media when they portray people with disabilities.
I really felt that it really just portrayed the character as your average, pretentious, uh, overarching college student. And something else I really appreciated is that they made fun of his crappy writing. You know, like he like wrote this very just boring, like, woe is me, I'm the center of the universe, cerebral palsy type thing, um, about being in love and such things as that. And the other characters, it was really funny because there were certain characters that kind of play the sympathetic role and were like, oh yeah, you're doing really great, that was amazing. And then like some legit writers were just like, no, that sucked, and that was like one of the worst things I ever heard. And as a writer, I was like, because that's what I want to hear. Like, I feel like some of the portrayal of disability is that mediocrity is like is like superiority to them. Like, you know, like if we do something average, then it's like, woo, way to go.
And as a person with a more severe disability, I can tell you that when someone says that I did a great job on something that I know I did average on, it actually makes me feel worse because they're not giving themselves or me enough credit to be able to do any better and to expect better from me. So I thought this was a very honest and heartfelt assessment of his writing skills and his overall mood in the writing.
Yeah, because he really was pretentious.
Yeah.
Something else the portrayal kind of hinted at, which I think would be a very interesting topic for us to tackle on our show, is it hinted at body image issues within his disability. There was this really poignant scene where he just kind of he freaked out and was feeling very insecure, and he broke up with his girlfriend, which was, you know, a very attractive person, and he just kind of couldn't handle it. And there was this scene where he was just staring at his body in the mirror and kind of flexing his muscles and kind of just looking at his body, and that really hit me. For those of you that don't know, I actually have struggled with anorexia nervosa for about 10 years. And that really hit me like, yeah, like that's body image is a big part of the experience as a crippled person.
Right. And for me, it also hit me because when I think of being in a relationship, that's one of the first things that I think about on at least a subconscious level because part of me often wonders how are they going to perceive my body and is it going to be attractive to someone else?
Mm-hmm. So, what did you think about the other half of the movie that really didn't deal with disability, but more dealt with like class roles and societal structures, the 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 pressure of um, moving out of adolescence and being part of kind of the upper class? It talked a lot of there, there was a lot of nuance about kind of class structure and societal structure. One of my favorite characters was the the maid or the nanny of the family. That was I believe she was portrayed as being from El Salvador.
Yes, Consuelo. I
Consuelo.
felt I felt very bad for her during the film because the family that she worked for made it pretty clear that they were just using her for her abilities to clean the home and they did not really care about how she felt. Like the youngest child made me so angry because he was he had spilled some grape juice or something and he went looking for this woman just so she had to clean it up when it was obvious that she was having difficulty remembering the anniversary of her husband's death.
Actually, I believe it was her son.
Was it
Yeah,
her
it was.
son?
Yeah, it was her son.
It was a traumatic death in her life, and all he was concerned about was her doing her job. And when she apparently said no, the son told his father, and the father subsequently got her fired at the end of the story, which leads
Spoiler alert.
which leads to a tragic event.
Wow, Wow, you're spoiling the movie for everyone. Well, hopefully you've seen it by now. I think one of the things I don't know if you picked up on kind of the symbolism of the supposed stories based around fiction were probably the most real, and the ones based on the nonfiction real life were probably the most um, insincere.
Yeah, like I felt like both of these stories could have been nonfiction stories because they relate to me in a lot of ways. I felt like the kid in the second story was like some of the people that I grew up with whose parents were rich, but the child didn't really fit into the stereotypical role that they had set up for him. So he struggles a lot with self image and self concept and whether or not he should go to college or should not.
Yeah, so you're talking about the eldest son,
Yes.
who's kind of the center of the second half of the film,
Yes.
named Scooby.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought the portrayal of his character was great because um, I think it's a just really true portrayal of a lot of like the egocentric experience that we all kind of encounter during our adolescence. Um, so, on a scale from 1 to 5 stars, where would you place storytelling?
I would give it about a 3.5.
3.5.
It was good.
What do you think it could improve on?
It could have improved on, like, I felt like some of the parts were a bit cheesy and stereotypical as far as gender and sex roles in society. And I felt like some of the characters needed to be a little bit more developed.
Okay. I would probably give it, I would say 4 stars. So I'm right around there with you. I liked it probably a little bit more than you did. Um, I would say that the one thing that I really wish could have been done is that I wish that the fiction side of the story was there was more to it. They the nonfiction side of the story, which is quote unquote entitled in both instances, uh, has a lot more time in the movie than the first story regarding um, the relationship of Marcus and his girlfriend V, and then the role that their creative writing class plays in their lives and relationships. I really felt that was a really interesting story, and maybe it's just because I'm biased and I have cerebral palsy.
Right.
I wanted to see more of what that story um, felt like and where it went. Um, I really just enjoyed that there was a lot of just tongue in cheek. Like you knew that the movie was satire and was pointing towards some greater truths and some more common sense issues. And I really enjoyed it. Which I've seen a few other films from this director, and I haven't liked them as much. So I was like really into this film. I felt it lacked a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the first story could have been more developed. I would have liked to have seen what happens to Marcus and V as the story progresses, but I can understand why the director felt maybe a social pressure to shift the focus to a more normal story and tell that one in greater detail.
Nice. Well, we're going to end this bonus content for Cerebral Conversations. Be sure to check out our weekly show, Cerebral Conversations, conversations on disability liberation and integration. You can like our page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Cerebral Conversations. You can also like us on, you can follow us on Twitter, which is at Cerebral Convos. How can they get a hold of you, Ron?
You can get a hold of me on Facebook at Ron Jackson and send feedback for the show. Watch the show on YouTube, send questions, and get cerebral, people.
That's right. You can follow my personal blog, The Running Search, at cjcampbell.tumblr.com. And be sure to check out episode 3 of Cerebral Conversations, which actually ties in. This week's topic is the portrayal of disability within the media. So, like Ron said, keep it cerebral.